Kartonok is the ComedyMX channel for kids of all ages, from 9 to 99. Whether your passion runs from classy cars to classic cartoons, from Howdy Doody to Coco the Clown, or from Space Patrol to Buffalo Bill Jr., visit Kartonok and watch all day. Turn your world upside down.
And now, stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Colonel Bleep's arrival on Earth. Colonel Bleep, interplanetary intelligence agent for the planet Futura, had completed another dangerous mission. That arch-criminal, Dr.Destructo, had at last been captured and was at this very moment a prisoner in a space bubble securely anchored in the outer ring of the planet Saturn. And now the Futuran High Command had ordered Colonel Bleep on a new assignment, a top-secret mission to investigate reports of disturbances on worlds of outer space, the distant planet Earth in particular, to observe its places, people, and customs. It was therefore only a few days later that the giant telescope at Mount Palomar Observatory first gave news to people of Earth of Colonel Bleep's approach. The powerful lenses focused on this curious visitor from the outer world as he flashed past the planets Uranus and Neptune, and then rapidly spanned the empty space towards our own planet, Earth. Actually, the people of Futura had only recently become interested in Earth. To Futurans, the Earth was only a small planet revolving around the minor sun of the Milky Way galaxy, and hardly worth investigation under ordinary circumstances. However, on July 16, 1945, they had observed what appeared to be an atomic explosion on the Earth planet. As time went on, Futuran Futonic radar scopes recorded an increase in the number and fury of these explosions. And in the Earth's stratosphere, even the rocket trails of guided missiles were observed. To Futurans, these were signs of trouble. Trouble in space, and trouble anywhere in space is the concern of the Futura Interplanetary High Command. And so Colonel Bleep has arrived. And the exciting adventures of his new secret mission are about to begin. With Colonel Bleep are two unusual companions to share his exciting adventures. First, there is Squeak, a happy-go-lucky boy of the present, very much like you, except that Squeak is a puppet and cannot speak a single word, because, as you all know, a puppet cannot talk for himself. But Squeak is filled with curiosity, as all boys are, and you all know the troubles curiosity can often bring about. Second, there is Scratch, an expert on the past, who, like other cavemen, should really have become extinct several thousand years ago. But Scratch fell asleep and slept right through the evolution of man and didn't wake up until that first atomic explosion blew him right out of the past and into the present. Scratch, like most cavemen, is sometimes a trifle slow at catching on, but when danger threatens, Bleep and Squeak can depend on quick action from Scratch and his trusty club, as they shall see. So here they are, three very strange companions. Colonel Bleep of the future, Squeak of the present, and Scratch of the distant past. Together they travel up, down, backwards or forwards, in distance or in time. Together they face danger and death as they fight to maintain right and justice throughout the vast galaxies of the world. And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of The Bat and the Bottle. Colonel Bleep and the High Command review the grim reports once more. 4 flying saucers from Venus lost in collision with a giant space bird. 6 Martian cruisers wrecked in a headlong plunge into a swirling sea of liquid air. And 3 cargo ships from Jupiter lost forever in a raging space storm. High Command agrees these terrible spaceflight accidents must be stopped. But how? Colonel Bleep proposes a daring plan. With a giant, specially equipped rocket ship of his own design, Bleep insists he can survey the many hazards of the universe and produce a map. A space map, which would accurately chart the location of every danger zone in the galaxy. And so, Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch proceed at once to the planet Robot Land. Only the skilled robot engineers of this strange mechanical world are capable of constructing the great rocket ship Trav-a-lab. Now in Factory City, as the master robot, Romex, guides the movements of his robot workers, the great rocket begins to take shape on the busy assembly line. At last, the fabulous traveling laboratory is ready to blast off on its first flight at dawn tomorrow. But already, Dr.Destructo has a plan. A plan to destroy the great ship. With this bottle of powerful liquid Futomic dynamite, Destructo intends to blast the Trav-a-lab to smithereens. Quickly, Villain fastens a message to the bottle, then calls his giant vampire bat to deliver the deadly parcel. Away it streaks, straight for Factory City. At dawn, when Bleep and his friends rush out to test their new rocket, they spot the mysterious package.
For luck, to christen the Trav-a-lab. Signed, a friend.
Of course, every new rocket ship should be christened. But wait, Squeak, don't use that bottle. Sizzling Saturn, that's the very bottle Destructo filled with a powerful liquid Futomic dynamite. It will blow them all to cosmic dust. Stop, Squeak! Don't do it!
It's too late. Squeak is ready to christen the Trav-a-lab.
Gleefully, Destructo and his wicked bat watch the awful scene. The puppet takes aim, and there it goes.
But nothing happens. Destructo is amazed. For how can he possibly know his carrier bat had guzzled down every last drop of the liquid dynamite on its long flight to Factory City? Or that the beast standing beside him now is filled with the deadly explosive? But the angry Destructo isn't waiting for explanations. The bat is to blame for the failure of his plan, and now he grabs the terrible creature and twirls him around his head, then sends it crashing at his feet. Yes, the Trav-a-lab rocket was saved. All
a thirsty bat and an empty bottle.
And now, stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of building an island base. Once Colonel Bleep and his friends were back on 00 Island, little Squeak could wait no longer to build a home. In fact, Squeak had already drawn a sketch of the kind of house he dreamed of, with picket fence and a garden for flowers and vegetables. But how can you build a house without the tools of the carpenter's trade? You know, a carpenter is an expert in the use of hammers and saws and planes and chisels. But Squeak and Scratch had no tools. However, they did have Colonel Bleep, who brought with him from outer space atomic energy. The power of the future, stronger even than atomic energy. And so, Bleep threw the F-energizer switch. And suddenly there was a beautiful little house for Squeak with a huge cave underneath for Scratch. And completely covering the entire island was a gigantic plastic-like dome to protect them from bad weather and insects, and which would also serve as a giant laboratory for Bleep's experiments and research. But Squeak and Scratch could not linger long in their house and cave because Colonel Bleep reminded them it was travel time again, this time to see the Belgian Congo. Here we go! Looking down on the continent of Africa from high in the sky, Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch see that the Belgian Congo looks something like an ivy leaf. The stem touches the Atlantic Ocean on the west, and the central vein of the leaf is formed by the Congo River, which curves some 3,000 miles into the interior and is the only river in the world that crosses the equator twice. The capital city of Leopoldville is a modern, busy river port. Half of the Belgian Congo is covered by dense equatorial jungle, with a temperature in the 80s almost every day of the year. If Bleep and his friends were to crash in this land, they would find jungles that are almost useless to man. Few tropical fruits grow here, and in fact, until recently, the natives lived almost entirely on game they snared or shot with bow and arrow. Today, civilization is moving into the Congo, and the wild animals, antelope, zebra, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and gorilla are slowly disappearing except in the game reserves, and the natives are being taught modern farming methods. The Belgian Congo was first opened to Europeans by Henry Morton Stanley, the American newspaper man. The same Mr. Stanley who said, "Dr. Livingston, I presume." To most people, the Belgian Congo would not be considered a very pleasant place to live, but it is an interesting place for Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch to visit. And now, stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of danger below.
Far out in space, on a tiny ocean-covered planet, lies the lily-pad kingdom of Aqualand. Here, In this beautiful watery world live the friendly frogmen, curious inhabitants of this curious land. And far below, in the hidden coves of the ocean floor, these little fellows gather the most priceless gems of the galaxies. For only here, in the secret treasure beds of the frogmen, can be found the precious, giant pearls of Aqualand. But no longer is the secret of these rich pearl beds known only to the frogmen. For suddenly, a monstrous shadow looms into view. In sheer terror, the frogmen flee, for this is Octo the Terrible, the blackest, meanest octopus in the sea. Helplessly, the divers watch as this wicked creature carries off load after load of their precious pearls. And so it is that Colonel Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch streak to the aid of the frogmen, arriving just in time to see the thieving culprit scurry off with the last of the gleaming gems. Following closely, the spaceman and his deputies watch amazed as the monster pours the stolen treasure into the hatch of a waiting submarine. Through a porthole of the sub stare the greedy eyes of Dr.Destructo, the mastermind behind this wicked scheme. Little Squeak tosses his lasso with perfect aim and quickly ropes the terrible Octo out of action. But the evil Destructo has already zeroed in on Colonel Bleep. Fire! One! With a mighty roar, a giant torpedo thunders straight for the Colonel. Too late! The spaceman learns his water-soaked atomic energy supply is useless now. Is this the end for Colonel Bleep? How can he possibly escape this terrible fate? But wait! With a mighty leap, Scratch lands astride the deadly missile. In the nick of time, he pulls the rudder, missing the spaceman by only inches. Destructo, now in full retreat, crashes to the surface. But there is no escape. Now dead on his target, Scratch leaps to safety. Not one trace of Destructo's submarine remains. Not one clue to the doctor's fate. Only the gleaming pearls could be seen as they settled back once more to the treasure beds of Aqualand. The frogmen gave 3 rousing cheers, for they had witnessed proof indeed that a man's evil deeds, like a boomerang, have a way of coming back to him. And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Dangerous Holiday. According to Colonel Bleep, the planets of the universe are filled with exciting sights to see. Squeak and Scratch had already visited such unusual places as Aqualand, the watery world of the curious frogmen, and Robotland, the strange home of the mechanical men who happily work in great factory cities. But now, the puppet and the caveman were to accompany Bleep for a short holiday on the most wonderful world of all, Bleep's own home planet, Futura, land of the future. Of course, Squeak and Scratch were expecting to have the time of their lives on such an exciting journey. But just as they passed through the rings of Saturn, almost halfway to Futura, our three friends were secretly spotted by a bitter enemy, the vicious Black Knight of Pluto. And so it was that when Bleep and his friends at last reached Futura, they were completely unaware that this cowardly villain was close behind them, like an evil black shadow, ready to strike when danger was least expected. Upon arrival, Colonel Bleep sped off to visit his fellow officers at the High Command headquarters, leaving Squeak and Scratch free to enjoy the glorious sights of this beautiful land. Their tour started on a vertical car which carried them straight to the top of the tallest Futurian skyscraper. But up ahead, the wicked knight was already prepared to send our sightseeing friends plunging to their doom. Just in time, the space deputies stepped to safety, quite unaware of their narrow escape. Once more, the evil knight strikes. And once again, Squeak and Scratch are unknowingly saved. An exciting ride on a speedy sky train turns out to be wonderful fun, in spite of the culprit's devilish scheme to send them spinning down to their death. Yes, to unsuspecting Squeak and Scratch, these Futurian rides were even more fun than the roller coaster back home. The Black Knight shook with rage. But then, suddenly, he saw one more chance. For now, our friends had hopped aboard a steer-it-yourself Skyway scooter. The tiny car rolled smoothly along, but just as the puppet and caveman settled back to relax, away they streak. Down they speed as fast as light, then up to a dizzy height. Over, then under, and back again. The speedometer reads 410. The Black Knight roars with laughter. For now he is sure Squeak and Scratch are doomed. Look! There they go into a loop-de-loop. Now here they come again. But wait! The runaway car is empty. It was empty. For now, the wicked knight is caught in his own trap. Away he goes, 1,000,000 miles beyond the Milky Way. But what has happened to Squeak and Scratch? Well, believe it or not, when the car looped the loop, they were gently transferred to a landing elevator. And there Colonel Bleep was waiting with a Futurian 4-flavor ice cream surprise for each of them. Yes, both Squeak and Scratch agreed that although Futurian ways of travel sometimes seem a trifle strange, the space deputies had never had a more wonderful time. And so it was that the cowardly Black Knight's destruction had turned into a day of fun for Squeak and Scratch.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of the Earth from outer space. Colonel Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch are on their way to outer space for a moon's eye view of our planet, Earth. Here, hundreds of miles above the Earth, they see our planet as a huge round ball speeding through space in its endless orbit around the sun. The Earth completes a full circle around the sun every 364¼ days, which is exactly 1 year by our calendar. And as it moves, it also spins completely around, once every 24 hours, 1 full day by our clock. This means only half of the Earth faces the brilliance of the sun at a time, that side being aglow with daylight. But as that side turns from the sun, the daylight fades into the darkness we call night. Woo! Woo! Billions of years ago, the Earth was probably blazing hot, like the sun. But through the ages, its surface has gradually cooled to form the rock, soil, and salty oceans we know and live upon today. But if Bleep and his friends were to remove a slice from our Earth, like a piece of melon, inside they would discover a center of fiery, molten rock. Yes, no matter how you look at it, from the ground or from deep in outer space, this Earth of ours is an exciting place for Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch to investigate. But it can be even more exciting close up. So now the spaceman dives earthward for a closer look at one of the cities in which the people of this planet work, live, and play. As Colonel Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch peeked down through the clouds, they found the city of New Orleans, Louisiana, cradled within the wide sweeping curves of the mighty Mississippi River. Today, the romantic riverboats of yesteryear have been replaced by modern barges and swift ocean-going freighters, which have made New Orleans the second largest United States port. Colonel Bleep admired the towering buildings in the business district, and Scratch was fascinated by the colorful flags of the International Trade Mart building. Meanwhile, Squeak had spotted Canal Street, the widest street in the nation, and it seemed the whole city was aglow with excitement. This was the season of the Mardi Gras, that festive celebration that attracts thousands to New Orleans every spring. Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch landed atop one of the most beautiful floats in the parade, and the people cheered wildly because Bleep and his friends looked just like 3 happy paraders, disguised in weird costumes of the past, present, and future. The parade took them through the quaint French Quarter, past colorful gardens, massive grilled gates, ornamental wrought iron balconies, antiquated street lamps, and Basin Street, birthplace of Dixieland jazz. But for Scratch, the best thing of all was sampling the chef's prize Creole cooking in the world-famous New Orleans restaurant. Yes, New Orleans is a picturesque and exciting city for Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch. And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of the Evil Eye.
The Wonder Rocket Trav-a-lab slows to a gentle stop. Up radar scope. For the first time, Squeak and Scratch peer into the vast expanse of Galaxy 9. Here among colorful planets and glittering stars lies the greatest terror of the space lanes, the deadly sea of liquid air.
Only recently, 6 Martian cruisers plunged into this watery grave. But now Colonel Bleep has arrived to chart this deadly trap for a space map of the universe. With the exact location known to space pilots, the sea of liquid air will never again be a menace to interplanetary space travel.
Down radar scope. Proceed on course.
Unknown to Bleep, however, this swirling sea holds even greater dangers. For this is the secret lair of Black Patch and his band of cutthroat buccaneers. At this very moment, the villain's powerful space galleon plows through heavy waves, then stops as the evil captain scans the horizon in search of plunder.
Shiver me timbers, there she lies. The Trav-a-lab rocket, pride of the skies. Load the torpedoes and batten the hatch. We'll make her a coffin for Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch.
Through his giant periscope, the wicked pirate anxiously waits as the unsuspecting colonel guides the traveling laboratory into a deadly ambush. Already, Squeak and Scratch are busy at the charting instruments. Through the Futomic survey scope, the caveman sights the position of a planet to the left of the ocean.
Mark 1 planet to the left. Check.
Then across to the other side.
Mark 1 star to the right. Check.
And now within the sea itself.
Mark 1 blinking eye dead ahead. Check.
Blinking eye? Bleep takes over to see for himself. But there's nothing there at all. Scratch checks again, and there it is, a blinking eye as plain as can be. But Bleep and Squeak are sure Scratch is just seeing things. So the caveman is relieved of duty and sent to his quarters to rest. But he cannot rest. For suddenly, his nose begins to twitch. And that's a sure sign of trouble. Terrible trouble. But what and where? The eye, of course. That mysterious blinking eye. There's no time to lose. No time to explain to Bleep and Squeak. The caveman must investigate alone. Quickly, he leaps aboard his space scooter and opens the launching tube hatch. But look, it's too late.
Torpedo alert! Torpedo alert!
Black Patch has struck. Bleep leaps to the controls, but the Trav-a-lab is too big to escape. The torpedo zeroes in for the kill. But hold on. Scratch has spotted the torpedo. He's diving straight into the path of the missile. He's flipped it over. It's heading back. Bullseye! Yes, thanks to Scratch, the Trav-a-lab is saved. And now Bleep and Squeak know there really is a blinking eye. Or at least there was.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of Exposed.
It is early morning on Colonel Bleep's 00 Island headquarters. And for the third time this week, Space deputies Squeak and Scratch are scheduled for a practice space scooter flight to the moon and back.
Space cadets, fall in. Space cadets, report.
Quickly, the caveman and the puppet report their scooters have been double-checked, their flight instructions carefully read, and preparations made for all possible emergencies. But no one has noticed that during Bleep's pre-flight inspection quiz, little Squeak had secretly kept his fingers carefully crossed. Since he had safely completed this same practice flight twice before, the puppet hadn't bothered to double-check his scooter, study his flight instructions, or even prepare for emergencies. Worse, the cocky Squeak had laughed to himself as he watched Scratch follow Bleep's flight rules to the letter. There goes the signal.
3, 2, 1, scramble.
They're off. Already, Squeak is in for trouble, for by neglecting to double-check his scooter, he failed to notice his fuel tank is nearly empty. Luckily, however, he is able to land and quickly refuel without being seen by Colonel Bleep. By this time, Scratch was well on his way. He had studied his flight instructions and was able to avoid a heavy rain cloud which loomed directly on his course. The caveman obeyed every flying rule of outer space. Stopped at all stop signs. Waited at all space train crossings. And of course, followed all detour instructions, just as a good space deputy should. Meanwhile, little Squeak, already behind schedule, is quickly delayed again. Having failed to study his flight instructions, he is unable to avoid the heavy rain cloud. To make matters worse, his wipers bogged down from the dirt on his unpolished windshield. When, at last, the puppet recovers his bearings, good old Scratch is rounding the moon and heading back home. In a desperate effort to make up lost time, Squeak streaks for a shortcut, completely ignoring the sign which reads, "Dangerous passage, keep out." Too late, the puppet learns his mistake, for the cave-in traps him deep inside. At 00 Island, Scratch skids to a halt to wait for his friend. As time passes, the puppet still does not arrive, and so Scratch retraces his course and finally spots the familiar cowboy hat of the little puppet. As he is fully prepared for all emergencies, the caveman is able to free his helpless companion and save him from a terrible fate. And so, thanks to good old Scratch, the careless puppet arrives at last, safe and sound, back on 00 Island. With a sigh of relief, Squeak discovers Colonel Bleep is still unaware of his carelessness. But seconds later, little Squeak receives the shock of his life, for Bleep is unveiling his very latest invention, a Futamic photo memorizer. With this clever device attached to the powerful radar scanner, the spaceman is able to make a motion picture record of the morning training flights. The puppet's heart is in his mouth as he watches Bleep's movie reveal each step of Scratch's flight to the moon and back. Shaking with fear, Squeak listens as Bleep congratulates the caveman on his excellent flying. Then the colonel turns to Squeak, and the puppet faints dead away, for he knows the next movie will expose his carelessness forever. But luck was still with the puppet, for Bleep had only taken pictures of Scratch's flight. Tomorrow was the day when Squeak's test would be photographed. And you can just bet that tomorrow will be different, for the puppet has learned his lesson.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of
The Fire Bomb! Of all the wonders of Futurian space science, none is more valuable to the people of the universe than Colonel Bleep's fantastic invention, the Futurian robot. One by one, these mechanical marvels have been skillfully trained to master every important duty of modern space life. The Master Robot Guidex is in full command of busy Space Station X-1. Control Robot Synchro guides all traffic through the Milky Way Turnpike. Special mechanical engineers man all interplanetary transportation craft, from roaring space trains to small but speedy skyway cars. Step aboard, please. Indeed, without these skillful mechanical men on the job, interplanetary space life would quickly grind to a halt. But there is no need to worry about that, for there is enough high-precision Robolube in the great Futurian oil well to keep every robot running on perfect schedule forever. Fill me up, please. Yes, my clever mechanical friends. Fill up while you can, for at midnight you shall be dry. First, I shall empty your tanks. Then this powerful fire bomb is set to explode at 12 to destroy your life-giving oil well. Up, Grizzo! There's work to be done. Sizzling Saturn, Dr.Destructo and his pet gorilla are off to empty the oil tanks and set fire to the Robolube oil well. At Futurian Fire Control Center, a powerful fire detector scans the sleeping sky. Ever alert for the telltale smell of smoke. Smoke! Great galaxies, Grizzo's firebomb has exploded on schedule. The Robolube oil well is a mass of flames. Robot firemen leap to the call. But look, Destructo has emptied the tank. The entire brigade is grinding to a halt. The wicked plan is working. The mechanical robots have stopped. There's no one left to put out the fire. Hold everything. Here comes Colonel Bleep with Squeak and Scratch. They'll put out the fire. But how? The Colonel knows the frosty foam from this supercharge of frigid plutonium 505 will do the job if it can only be placed directly into the blazing oil shaft. But who could survive those terrible flames? Without delay, the fearless deputies volunteer. But little Squeak is a puppet made of wood. Surely he cannot go. And Scratch? But where is Scratch? Oh, no! There on the robot fire truck! It's the caveman himself inside a fireproof fireman suit! There he goes! Carrying Bleep's supercharge of foamy frigid plutonium! He's risking his life to save the priceless robot oil supply! It's working! The flames are dying down! The fire is out! Hooray! And there's good old Scratch, safe and sound in his fireproof fireman
human suit. And so, for his bravery, the gallant caveman was made honorary chief of the Futurian Robot Fire Brigade. All of which goes to prove that all's well that ends well.
And now stand by for adventure.
3, 2, 1.
In the exciting story of
Firewater! Far out in space, 3 cargo ships from Jupiter wing their way to a distant galaxy. Suddenly, passing the volcanic world of Thor, they're caught in a violent eruption. The ships are gone without a trace. The terrible space storms of Thor have struck again. But now, in the Wonder Rocket Trav-a-lab, Colonel Bleep, Squeak, and Scratch are on their way to survey and chart the exact position of this treacherous planet on a map, a space map for safer space travel. On his visoscreen, the Colonel briefs his crew. Immediately following the next eruption, the Trav-a-lab will zoom in on Thor. A spray of water from the forward guns will protect the ship from the planet's blazing heat as they make a low-altitude run to survey Thor's exact position. But they must speed off to safety before the next space storm erupts. Unknown to Bleep and his crew, however, the wicked Dr.Destructo is already at work on a treacherous plot to send the Trav-a-lab to a fiery doom. If this culprit has his way, the spray guns on the Colonel's rocket will not be filled with water at all, but with highly inflammable rocket fuel. They will all be lost in a blazing inferno. Now back aboard the Trav-a-lab, Bleep spots an approaching space tanker. According to plan, the traveling laboratory will take on the water supply for its spray guns in a mid-space cargo transfer from such a craft. But Bleep is unaware that this spaceship is not the water-carrying tanker. No, indeed, this cargo ship is filled to the brim with highly inflammable rocket fuel, and the pilot is the evil Dr.Destructo himself.
Prepare for contact, Trav-a-lab.
Sizzling satellites? This is terrible. Scratch is opening the intake valve on the reservoir tanks. In seconds, they'll be filled with explosive rocket fuel. Don't turn that nozzle, Scratch! Don't do it! Stop! Stop! It's too late. He's turning it on. But wait, what's he doing now? Great galaxies, he's filling his drinking cup first. That's not water. Scratch knows something is terribly wrong. Quickly, the caveman ties a knot in the end of the snorkel hose. Now, as Destructo pumps the explosive fuel through the hose, it's trapped inside. Bigger and bigger the hose swells until inside the tanker, Destructo sneers with glee. The gauge of his cargo tank reads empty. The villain is sure the deadly load has been transferred to the Trav-a-lab. So away he speeds. But the spaceman and his deputies have the last laugh this time. Now Squeak takes careful aim. Scratch loads the forward launching tube. Destructo's plan has gone wrong, and you can be sure
He's pretty burned up about it.
Ready? Aim! Fire! Prepare for contact, Doctor.